Horror might not be the first genre you associate with The Lord of the Rings, but it's in there. Tolkien's optimistic story is punctuated with moments of genuine terror. But horror isn't just relegated to faceless villains. We even see it in characters we pity. Gollum is known among villages as a, quote, ghost that drank blood, crept into holes to find the young, slipped through windows to find cradles. But while there's no shortage of these kinds of moments, I don't think any surpass the Dead Marshes. Yes, that is the name. Not only for what happens there, but also for what inspired Tolkien to write it. In the span of only 4 pages, Tolkien weaves a particularly haunting thread into Frodo's quest. The hobbits are forced into the Dead Marshes because the only other road into Mordor is patrolled by so many orcs that, quote, not even the cloaks of Lorien would have concealed them there. But the marshes are also patrolled, not by orcs, but by winged Nazgul that force the company to only travel by night. And so the hobbits have no choice but to follow Gollum through endless swamps and pitch black darkness. That is, until Sam begins seeing what he thinks are hallucinations, rubbing his eyes as small lights flicker in the corners of his vision. But Sam realizes his mind isn't playing tricks. The lights are. Quote, Gollum looked up. The tricksy lights. Candles of corpses, don't follow them. Where's Master? Sam's fear is replaced by a greater terror as he realizes Frodo has followed the lights. In the books, Frodo doesn't fall into the water. Instead, after stumbling into his master, Sam trips. Sinking deep into sticky ooze, the lights flickered and danced and swirled. The water below him looked like some window.
There are dead things! Dead faces in the water!
He said with horror. Gollum laughed. You should not look in when the candles are lit. Frodo replies, I've seen them too, grim faces and evil, and noble faces and sad, many faces proud and fair, and weeds in their silver hair, but all foul, all rotting, all dead. Gollum says, there was a great battle long ago. They fought on the plain for days and months, but the marshes have swallowed up the graves. Now very carefully, hobbits go down to join the dead ones and light little candles of their own. Awful. But the scariest part of the Dead Marshes isn't anything that we just read. All great horror has at least a slim thread of reality, and the Dead Marshes have much more than that for Tolkien. Tolkien is known for rejecting the presence of allegories or real-world events inside of his fictional world.
Many people apply the ring to particularly the nuclear bomb, don't they? I think that it was in my mind that the whole thing was only an allegory of it. But it isn't.
So it's a big deal that in one of his letters, he directly ties the Dead Marshes to his experience after the Battle of the Somme. Without turning this into a history lesson, the Battle of the Somme was one of the bloodiest in all of World War I. It occurred in 1916, and among its more than 1 million casualties was Tolkien's close friend Robert Gilson. Before Tolkien contracted trench fever and had to leave the battle, he wrote a letter to his and Gilson's mutual friend, Geoffrey Smith. This letter gives insight into the mind of a 24-year-old Tolkien while the battle that would go on to inspire the Dead Marshes was being actively waged. Quote, I feel humbler and immeasurably weaker and poorer now, with intense feelings more than ideas but very powerless. The Dead Marshes depicts Frodo experiencing a similar powerlessness, stating for the first time that their quest to destroy the ring will likely be a suicide mission. Samwise Gamgee, my dearest hobbit, friend of friends, I do not think we need give thought to what comes after. If we can nurse our limbs to bring us to Mount Doom, that is all we can do. More than I can, I begin to feel. Tolkien concludes his letter expressing hope that none of their other friends will die. But in a particularly cruel twist of fate, the recipient of this letter, Tolkien's friend Geoffrey Smith, did not make it to the end of 1916. That same year, he had written the following to Tolkien, quote, my chief consolation is that if I am scuppered tonight, there will still be left a member of our group to voice what I dreamed. May God bless you, my dear John Ronald, and may you say things I have tried to say long after I am not there to say them, if such be my lot. I'm sorry for shifting us from fun, spooky horror into horror, but I think this kind of tragedy is actually a key reason why The Lord of the Rings is inspiring. Its optimism isn't empty or naive, it's earned, because it overcomes very persuasive reasons to be pessimistic. Sam explains it better.
It's all wrong. By rights, we shouldn't even be here. It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo. The ones that really mattered. How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. Because they were holding on to something. That there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo. And it's worth fighting for.
Thanks for watching. Not all my videos are this dark, but if you enjoyed this one, consider subscribing.